Their marriage was ending. Bags were packed. Tears were falling. Then their little daughter spoke words that broke them both. Subscribe to Wild Sky Stories' new emotional tales every day. The autumn wind swept through Thornwood Valley, carrying with it the scent of dying leaves and broken promises. Samuel Hartley stood on the porch of the small farmhouse he had built with his own 2 hands 7 years ago, watching the sun paint the mountains in shades of orange and gold. His heart felt as heavy as the silence that had settled between him and the woman standing just inside the door. Margaret Hartley gripped the kitchen counter, her knuckles white against the worn wood. She had loved this man with everything she had, but somewhere along the dusty roads of their life together, they had lost each other. The words they spoke now were sharp, or worse, they spoke no words at all. The silence between them had grown so thick that even breathing in the same room felt suffocating. Their little daughter, Rosie, sat in the corner of the kitchen, clutching her worn rag doll against her chest. Her wide brown eyes moved between her mother and the door where her father's silhouette blocked the fading sunlight. At 5 years old, she understood more than her parents realized. She understood that something precious was breaking apart, and she did not know how to stop it. Samuel turned slowly, his weathered hands hanging at his sides. Years of working the land, of building fences, of trying to provide for his family had left calluses on his palms, but nothing had prepared him for the pain of watching his marriage crumble like dry soil in drought season. Margaret finally looked up, meeting his eyes for the first time in 3 days. Once those eyes had held so much love that Samuel felt he could drown in them. Now they held only exhaustion and a sadness so deep it frightened him. "I cannot do this anymore, Samuel," she whispered, her voice breaking on his name. "I cannot keep living like strangers under the same roof. Every night you come home later. Every morning you leave before sunrise. We pass each other like ghosts, and I have forgotten what your smile looks like." Samuel's jaw tightened. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that every hour he spent working was for her, for Rosie, for the life they were supposed to build together. But the words stuck in his throat like thorns. Instead, he heard himself say something he had been dreading for months. "Maybe you would be happier without me." The words hung in the air between them, sharp as a knife freshly sharpened. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth, and tears began streaming down her cheeks. She had feared this moment, had seen it coming like a storm on the horizon, but hearing him say it out loud shattered something inside her chest. "Is that what you want?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Do you want to leave us?" Samuel closed his eyes, feeling tears burning behind his lids. He had never been good with words, had never known how to express the tornado of emotions that lived inside his chest. He loved this woman more than the air he breathed. But somewhere along the way, he had stopped showing her. He had buried himself in work, in responsibility, in the weight of providing, and he had forgotten to nurture the most important thing in his life. "I want you to be happy," he said, opening his eyes. "And I have not made you happy in a long time." Margaret shook her head, tears falling freely now. "Happiness is not something you give me, Samuel. It is something we build together. But you stopped building with me. You stopped talking to me. You stopped looking at me like I was your partner and started treating me like furniture in this house." Her words struck him harder than any physical blow ever could. Because she was right. He had retreated into himself, convinced that providing money and security was enough. He had forgotten that his wife needed more than a roof over her head. She needed his heart, his presence, his attention. And he had withheld all of those things. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Working hard, saving money, building something for our future. I did not realize I was destroying our present. We have no future if we cannot even share our present." Margaret replied, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Every dream we had together has faded. I cannot remember the last time you held my hand or told me you loved me. I have spent so many nights lying awake beside you, feeling more alone than I ever felt before I met you." Samuel stepped forward, wanting desperately to close the distance between them, but his feet felt rooted to the floor. He had built walls around himself, stone by stone, telling himself he was being strong, but strength without tenderness was just emptiness. He understood that now, standing on the edge of losing everything that mattered. Little Rosie watched from her corner, her small heart pounding against her ribs like a caged bird. She had seen her mother crying at night when she thought no one was watching. She had seen her father walking the fields alone, his shoulders heavy with invisible burdens. She did not understand everything that was happening, but she understood love, and she understood that love was hurting right now. Margaret moved toward the bedroom, her steps slow and defeated. "I will pack some things tonight. Tomorrow I will take Rosie to my sister's place in Cedar Creek. Maybe some time apart will help us think clearly." Samuel felt panic rise in his chest, hot and suffocating. She was leaving. She was actually leaving. After 7 years of marriage, after building this home together, after bringing a beautiful daughter into the world, she was walking away. And he did not know how to stop her because he did not know how to open his heart and let the words out. "Margaret, please," he started, but his voice failed him. She paused at the bedroom door, not turning around. "Please what, Samuel? Tell me what you want. For Onk E. in our marriage, just tell me the truth. Do you still love me? Or have you been holding on out of duty?" The question hung in the air, demanding an answer. Samuel's mind raced through memories of their life together. The day they met at the town dance, when Margaret's laugh had captured his heart. Their wedding day, when she walked toward him in a simple white dress, looking like an angel descended from heaven. The night Rosie was born, when he held his daughter for the first time and wept with joy. Every meal shared at their little table, every sunset watched from the porch, every whispered conversation in the dark of night. He loved her. God above, he loved her so much it terrified him. But fear had built barriers around his heart, convincing him that if he showed too much emotion, he would appear weak. He had been raised by a father who believed men should be strong, silent, and stoic, and that upbringing had poisoned something beautiful. Before he could find the words, before he could break through the walls he had constructed, a small voice cut through the tension like a ray of sunlight through storm clouds. "Please do not go, Mama." Both Samuel and Margaret turned to look at their daughter. Rosie had risen from her corner, her rag doll forgotten on the floor. Tears streamed down her small cheeks, and her chin trembled as she struggled to speak through her sobs. "Please do not take me away from Papa. I love Papa. And I love you, Mama. I love you both together, no, apart." Margaret's hand flew to her chest, fresh tears spilling from her eyes. She knelt down, opening her arms as Rosie ran to her. The little girl buried her face in her mother's shoulder, crying with an intensity that broke both parents' hearts. Samuel moved forward, falling to his knees beside his wife and daughter. His hands trembled as he reached out, hesitating for just a moment before placing them on Margaret's shoulder and Rosie's back. The touch was tentative, unsure, like a man rediscovering something he had forgotten he knew. "I hear you and Papa fighting at night," Rosie sobbed, her words muffled against Margaret's dress. "I hear Mama crying, and I see Papa looking sad. Why are you both so sad? Did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart, no," Margaret whispered, pulling back to look at her daughter's tear-stained face. "You have done nothing wrong. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault." "Then why do you want to leave? Why does Papa not smile anymore? Why does everything feel broken?" Samuel felt tears sliding down his own cheeks, something that had not happened since his mother's funeral years ago. His daughter's pain, so raw and innocent, tore through every wall he had built. He reached out and gently turned Rosie's face toward him. "Your papa has made many mistakes, little one. I forgot how to show your mama how much I love her. I forgot that working hard does not mean working away from the people who matter most. I got lost, Rosie. I got lost in trying to provide for our family, and I forgot to actually be part of our family. Rosie looked at him with eyes that held wisdom far beyond her years. Then find your way back, Papa. Come home. Not just to the house, but come home to us. The simple truth of a child's words struck Samuel with the force of a thunderbolt. He had been physically present, but emotionally absent. He had been a provider, but not a partner. He had been a father in name, but not in presence, and his daughter, his precious little girl, had noticed every moment of his absence. He looked at Margaret, really looked at her, for the first time in months. He saw the lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped with the weight of loneliness. He saw a woman who had given him everything and received so little in return. He saw the love that still flickered in her eyes, desperate to be rekindled, but afraid of being disappointed again. I have been a fool, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. I convinced myself that loving you meant providing for you, that being strong meant being silent. But I was wrong, Margaret. I was so wrong. He took her hands in his, feeling her fingers tremble against his palms. I love you. I have never stopped loving you. Every morning when I leave before dawn, I look at you sleeping and my heart aches because you are the most beautiful thing in my world. Every night when I come home late, I stand in the doorway watching you and Rosie, and I feel like I do not deserve to be part of something so precious. Margaret's tears fell onto their joined hands. Then why did you pull away? Why did you shut me out? Because I was scared. Scared that if I let myself feel too deeply, I would crumble. Scared that if I failed to provide, you would leave. Scared that I was not good enough to be your husband or Rosie's father. So I buried myself in work, because work was something I could control. I could not control my fears or my feelings, but I could control how many fences I built or how many fields I plowed. He paused, gathering courage for the words that needed to be said. But I see now that by trying to protect myself, I was destroying us. I pushed you away when I should have been pulling you close. I worked myself to exhaustion when I should have been spending time with our daughter. I wasted precious months building walls when I should have been building memories. Rosie reached up and placed her small hand on her father's cheek. It is okay, Papa. You can start now. You can start today. Samuel looked at his daughter, this tiny person who held such enormous wisdom in her heart. She had spoken the truth that he needed to hear. It was not too late. As long as there was breath in his body and love in his heart, it was never too late to try again. He turned back to Margaret, searching her eyes for any remaining spark of hope. I know I cannot undo the hurt I have caused. I cannot take back the lonely nights or the missed moments. But if you give me another chance, I promise to spend every remaining day of my life proving that I am worthy of your love. Margaret looked at him, seeing the man she had married reflected in his tear-filled eyes. Beneath the walls and the distance, beneath the silence and the withdrawal, he was still there. The man who had made her laugh until her sides hurt, who had held her hand during thunderstorms, who had cried with joy when their daughter was born. He was still there, buried under layers of fear and misguided protection. How do I know this time will be different? She asked, her voice fragile as glass. How do I know you will not retreat again when things become difficult? Samuel reached up and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. Because I almost lost you tonight. I almost lost everything that matters. And that fear, the fear of a life without you and Rosie, is greater than any fear that has held me back before. I would rather face every terrifying emotion than spend one day without you by my side. He took a deep breath, committing to his next words with everything he had. I will talk to you, even when words feel impossible. I will hold you, even when I feel unworthy of your touch. I will be present, truly present, not just physically but with my whole heart. I will learn how to be the husband and father you both deserve. I will not promise perfection, because I am far from perfect. But I promise effort, I promise honesty. I promise my whole self. Not just the parts I think you want to see." Margaret looked down at Rosie, who was watching both of them with hope shining through her tears. This little girl needed both her parents, together, loving each other. She needed to grow up seeing what a real partnership looked like. Not just two people sharing a roof, but two people sharing a life. "I am scared too, Samuel," Margaret admitted. "Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of hoping and being disappointed. But I am more scared of giving up on something worth fighting for." She reached out and touched his face, her fingers gentle against his weathered skin. "We build together or not at all. That means sharing burdens, not carrying them alone. That means talking through fears, not hiding behind silence. That means being partners in every sense of the word." Samuel nodded, covering her hand with his own. "Together. I understand now. I truly do." Rosie wrapped her arms around both her parents, pulling them into a group embrace. "Does this mean Mama is not leaving? Does this mean we stay together?" Margaret looked at Samuel, searching his eyes one final time. What she found there was not perfect, but it was real. Fear mixed with determination. Love battling against old habits. A man willing to try, willing to change, willing to fight for his family. "We stay together," Margaret whispered. "We stay and we work, and we love each other through all of it." Samuel pulled his wife and daughter close, holding them as if they may disappear if he let go. Tears streamed down his face, but for the first time in years, they were not tears of frustration or fear. They were tears of gratitude, of relief, of a love that had almost been lost but had found its way back. Outside, the sun finished its descent behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of purple and pink. A new night was beginning, but for the Hartley family it felt like a new dawn. The road ahead would not be easy. Old habits would take time to break. Trust would need to be rebuilt brick by brick. But they would face it together, a family united by love and held together by the simple, powerful words of a little girl who refused to let her parents give up. In the small farmhouse in Thornwood Valley, 3 hearts beat as one for the first time in longer than anyone could remember. And that night, when darkness fell and stars filled the sky, Samuel and Margaret sat on the porch together, hands intertwined, watching their daughter chase fireflies in the yard. They did not need to speak. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was filled with promise, with hope, and with a love that had been tested and had survived.